Like ved Kanariøyene på Afrikas fastland lærer Europa sine egne kortsiktige interesser gå foran prinsipper om menneskerettighet og fred. Velkommen til SANDFAST, vår podkast om Vest-Sahara, den siste kolonien på det afrikanske kontinent. I desember 2021 kom den tyske utenriksministeren med en uttalelse som sjokkerte mange i Vest-Sahara. Til alle tider har Tyskland vært kritisk til den marokkanske okkupasjonen av Vest-Sahara. Hvorfor snudde plutselig Tyskland og viste støtte til Marokkos regjering? Med oss i dag har vi tyske Gunther Hilliges fra den tyske solidaritetsbevegelse. Han har selv fulgt konflikten i Vest-Sahara siden invasjonen fant sted. Gunther, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you could join today. Just first question that I always have to my guest is, how did you get involved in Western Sahara? You have been involved in this matter for a long time, even long before I was born in the Sahrawi refugee camps.
I was since 1968 working for the NGO Terre des Hommes, that means World of Humanity. And we were helping napalm wounded children during this Vietnam War. We brought them from the battlefield in Vietnam to German hospitals, also to Bremen hospitals. And during this process, we learned about decolonization processes like it was in Vietnam. And when I heard in 1976 that the Moroccan army threw napalm on refugees from Western Sahara on their way to Tindouf, we immediately were shocked and said, this brutal army against civil people who are simply wanting to become rid of the Spanish colonizers, we thought we should go to this place. Beginning of 77, I was in the camps, and all the people lived in tents. It was a very, very horrible situation, and we decided from Terre des Hommes to bring this need and the injustice to German attention. So I came back and we made a press conference, and I was happy to see that people were interested. And so we organized in various cities in Germany working groups to help the Sahrawian people in their wilayas. And then the United Nations started to help. And the first decade of help, I was 3-4 times in the camps. Myself, by profession, I am civil servant of the Bremen government. And I was invited by the government to speak about my experiences in the camps and with this difficult decolonization process. And the media were interested, so we tried to integrate also politicians in this problem. The German Bundestag, 5 years later, organized a small mission of parliamentarians to Tindouf and to the Rabuni.
Which is placed in the camps for people who don't know.
Yes. We tried to network in Germany with Medico International, with Aktion Solidarische Welt. And due to my profession in the Bremen government, I could also convince 6 state governments. In the 80s and in the 90s, we had meetings in my office with representatives from all 4 or 5 NGOs, from the Polisario representative, from Bonn before the unification, and from 6 German state governments. So it was quite a powerful structure, and we supported several projects in education, in medicine. So that was the beginning of this solidarity movement. And due to the fact that our government supported all these activities, there was a link to other liberation movements in Africa, such as SWAPO, that is a liberation movement from Namibia, and ANC, Nelson Mandela's liberation movement from against apartheid in South Africa. Sometimes all the three presidents of these three movements, including Abdelaziz from Polisario, were jointly in Bremen. They were received by our government officially. The flags of these three movements were on the town hall, and the media took interest, and we got a lot of donations for our work next to the money from the government and the parliament.
And this is amazing, both the whole solidarity movement and in Germany and what you have achieved. We should actually make another podcast episode just about that. From all this amazing and positive response, as you said, from different actors in media or in state, we see how Germany, in a way, shifted direction. In 2020, when Trump recognized Moroccan sovereignty over Western Sahara, Germany was actually the one who stood up for international law. And I remember, yes, someone is actually standing for international law, and it was Germany. But what happened? Because all of a sudden, Germany totally shifted position.
I have to correct a little bit, because what I told you about the Bremen initiative and the NGO initiatives and the states initiatives had nothing to do with the federal government.
Okay.
Because that was a very conservative government, and we did not get any support from the German government because they tried to continue their friendly position towards Morocco. And they accepted that we were active, but they never gave us financial support. And we were always trying to convince the federal authorities in Bonn, later in Berlin, that they should follow the international law. And we were happy that when Trump took this wrong decision against the international law, that the German ambassador, the Security Council, asked for a special session. And this has immediately interrupted the ambassadorship between Morocco and Germany. The German ambassador was kicked out of Rabat, and then the vice versa from Berlin also. So this is called the ice time between the two countries, because Germany did not support the way Trump had undertaken.
Is that first Trump recognized Western Sahara as a Moroccan, and then German, as I said, stood up for international law, and then Morocco reacted aggressive, as they do often, by just stopping all the relationship. It's a way of putting pressure on Germany. And so what happened now in January is that Germany gave up to the pressure, right?
Yeah, we have our NGO in Germany now for the Western Sahara, Freedom for the Last Colony in Africa. We have protested against decision from the foreign ministry saying that Morocco's autonomy plan were a good basis for a future solution. And there was nothing said about self-determination and nothing said about human rights. That was a reason why our NGO protested towards the German president, the German foreign ministry, and the German chancellor. And we got now invitations for discussions about our position because they say it was not a change of policy. We support the UN way to stand for a referendum so that the Sahrawian people have the right of self-determination. We have protested in Berlin against leaving out this element of self-determination. We got an invitation for talks, and there it was said this proposal from the king is only a document to talk about. It is not a change of German policy. We fully support the UN and the new special envoy. The former envoy was the German president.
So what Germany is saying, they're saying we support the right for self-determination, but also they are saying we support Moroccan proposal. I'm just trying to figure out what is their position.
Only one discussion paper, which we find a good possibility to bring the parties together for talks. Because since 4 years, there is no negotiation between Morocco and Polisario. And Polisario rightly says negotiations have to be open, and in the center is the right of self-determination and not a proposal from one side for autonomy, because Morocco has said, we don't accept a referendum, we don't accept self-determination. So that is why the German position is clear. We follow the international law, and we don't follow the Trump decision.
And just speaking about special envoy, a few years ago, there was appointed the former German president. He was the UN special envoy to Western Sahara. And I remember myself that many people thought that that was something positive. What was the expectation and the hope you had as consequences of that? Like having him as
a... very happy that he was appointed with the acceptance from both sides, Morocco as well as Polisario. We got an invitation from him. I was present in a long debate because he was very interested to learn about the different positions, in particular the global network of NGOs in favor of self-determination. And Mr. Köhler unfortunately resigned before the third round of discussions took place due to health reasons. And now and then, long time without a special envoy, no talks between the parties. And now the former ambassador for the peace in Syria, de Mistura, was appointed. He knows hard jobs, and we all hope that he is able to bring the parties at one table together to talk on the basis of international law.
So in the notes, that I read, I found published in some media, it says in the note that it was sent by the German president that he praised the Moroccan dynamic development and how it became a destination to the German investment in Africa. Is there a chance that the Germans want access to Morocco's renewable energy projects in the occupied territories?
I think Morocco is number one country in North Africa regarding renewable energies. And many companies from Germany, like Siemens, are already involved in windmill and solar projects. And there was even a Desertec initiative of all North African countries to use the solar electricity in this hot Sahara area and to feed North Africa with electricity by photovoltaic and to send it also to Europe. This is an old plan minimum 10 years old. It has nothing to do with Western Sahara. It's the opposite. We have always criticized in public when one of the companies tried to organize windmills like Siemens in the occupied territories. We could convince the German government not to give any money for this, no guarantees by international investments. The companies need guarantees from governments, otherwise they would not do it, in particular in tense areas. So Siemens does it on its own, and the most windmills are in Morocco itself. The German president invited in January, I think, the King of Morocco for a visit to Germany.
Yeah, and they are saying that Germany and Morocco will resume the relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a step towards Morocco, that this initiative of autonomy provides a good platform for a future. We immediately protested because also Polisario had given in this 2007 some ideas for the future. They were not mentioned. So, and that has led to protest letters to the German president, to the foreign minister. She is now from the Green Party. The Greens were always in favor of the self-determination of the Sahrawian people. And that's the reason why we protested and said, is it a change of policy? And they immediately said, no, we stand behind the UN process of self-determination. So we consider this fake news. They try to ease the tensions with the king, and they try not to give up the international law position. So that is the reason that we try to set pressure to the most extent possible by media, by conferences on this. We even published a book in German language on the actual situation of this Western Sahara case.
Yeah, so basically, just to conclude this, is Germany has not changed position. They're still standing behind international law and the right for self-determination. So I think it sounds like Germany trying to find a pragmatic solution in order to resume the relationship again. But in doing that, they are inviting the Moroccan king to come to Germany. What do you think about this development? What do you think will be your next challenges? Like inviting the Moroccan king to Germany, or maybe will be follow up with many other initiatives from Germany in order to warm the relationship again with Morocco?
The German president has answered to our protest letter and has invited us for a talk, and that will take place in the next few weeks. But we are very worried about this double face game, because it has resulted already in a change of position in Spain. And we have protested against the ambassador of Spain in Berlin, Pedro Sanchez, the prime minister in Madrid, that he has accepted this autonomy plan, also a good possibility for solving the problem from 2007. And I learned yesterday from some members of parliament from Spain that they have invited the prime minister to explain his change of position, because still Spain is governing body over its former colony, administrative government, it's called.
Yeah, we will do, I think maybe we'll do also one episode about Spain. But just since you mentioned Spain, is there correlation between Spain's new position and one of the Germany?
It is very difficult to say, but since Trump has opened the doors, and now Germany and Spain as very important countries, and France is still silent on the side of Morocco. So this ruins the position in Europe, and the court decisions are always jeopardized by the European Commission. Even the court has criticized the Commission that despite their clear decisions that Western Sahara is not a part of Morocco, they still try to find ways to follow the Moroccan position to make Western Sahara part of the Moroccan kingdom.
What has been the position of different parties in Germany? Very short.
We have in our NGO all parties from the German Bundestag integrated, excluding the right wing. All parties are a so-called intergroup of the German Bundestag. But all these party members are in their own parties in the Bundestag more or less isolated. Other in the European Parliament, the intergroup has about 80 members of parliament from all fractions.
What has been the German position in the EU Parliament? I mean, you have mentioned it through your different answers.
The EU Parliament, this intergroup in the EU was since its existence 20 years, always headed by a German social democrat. And after this ending of the ceasefire, the German chairman of the intergroup could not stand the beginning of the war again and resigned.
Yeah. And Gunther, I'm so proud that I'm saying the name correct. I just want to say first, for me as a Sahrawi, but also responsible for this SANDFAST podcast, I want to say thank you so much. And I think it's very inspiring to speak to activists who have been activists for over 40 years, and you still didn't give up. I can see when you speak, it's so passionate and it feels like something from yesterday. And I think myself and many people who work on Western Sahara or people who are listening, they really need sometimes that kind of emotional push and that type of energy. As you said, there is always something that is more important than Western Sahara. One day, I hope you all Bremen, I mean all the Germans, but especially Bremen, that you come to Western Sahara and then we will have a German flag or maybe Bremen flag. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Also, your interview is for me a sort of motivation that the Sahrawian diaspora does not give up and that you try to broadcast globally about this injustice and this role of, that is what worries us most in the EU. Spain and France are still with the conqueror, Morocco, and the other members of the EU are more or less silent because they have more important problems.
Yes, let's keep Germany supporting international law. Have a very nice day. Hvis du vil lære mer om konflikten, gå til vest-sahara.no.